Hello guys, welcome to Study IQ. I'm Safir. In this session, we are going to continue our discussion on temple architecture. So if you remember, we have completed the temple architecture in North India and then we have completed the temple architecture in South India. So when we discussed about the temple architecture in North India, we have discussed the development stage in three phases or in three stages. And then we have seen that the third stage led to the Nagara style, and we discussed the Nagara style. So Nagara style is the dominant temple architecture in North India. And then we have seen the variations of Nagara style, and that's what we have discussed as Odisha style, Chandela style and the Solanki style. So that is what we have discussed, right? So we have seen the features, we have seen the development, we have seen the stages, and we have seen examples. We discussed everything which is related to the temple architecture in North India. So once we're done with the discussion on Nagara style and the variations of Nagara style, we started discussing the temple architecture in South India, and then we covered the Dravida style. There we discussed the four different stages of development. Instead of three stages in North India, we discussed the four different stages in South Indian temple architecture. And then the third stage led to the Dravida style. And then we started discussing Dravida style. We have seen the features of Dravida style. And then we also discussed the variations of Dravida style. That is what? Vijayanagar and then Nayaka style. So far, if you see, we discussed Nagara, Dravida, variations of Nagara, variations of Dravida, variations of Nagara, which is Odisha style, Chandela style, and then the Solanki style. Variations of South India, that is the Dravida, we have discussed as Vijayanagar and Nayaka. So what is left out? Apart from North Indian and South Indian, like we can give it a name for the sake of giving a name, other style of temple architecture. So here I basically want to discuss two type, that is Vessera style, and then we will also discuss the Hoysala style of temple architecture. So with this, we will be completing the discussion on temple architecture, and we will be completing the discussion on art and architecture area of ancient India, and then we will be moving to medieval. So that's how we are going to do. So let's discuss this first, the other style. The first one I'll start with this one, Vessera style. So guys, if you see, this name is actually from the word Vessera. Vessera is actually a Sanskritic word which means taking a long path. Now, taking a long path means traveling a long distance. So this itself will give you some idea about this temple, or one of the feature of this temple, that it is kept far away. That means it is kept far long from the habitation, human habitation. So what does that mean? The temples are made at a distance from human habitation. That means they have to walk a long way to reach to the temple. So Vessera means taking a long path. So what do you mean by Vessera temple? To reach the temple, you have to take a long way. It's kept away, or it was located far away from the human habitation. So Vessera style is actually a combination of North Indian and South Indian style. So it's actually a mix of Dravida as well as Nagara. So it is a combination of Nagara and Dravida. So if you see what is that element or the feature which is coming from Nagara, and what is that element which is coming from Dravida, which is something that they can ask you in exam. So we have discussed about certain features in Nagara and Dravida, and one of the features that we discussed in Nagara is there is a open ambulatory passage, right? So that you will be finding here. So open ambulatory passage is from where? Nagara style. And then if you see, there is going to be Vimana, that pyramidal structure which is kept at the top. From where? That is from the Dravida style. If you see, Vimana was in the Dravida style. On the other hand, if you see the North Indian style, that is the Nagara style, it is Shikhara, which is a curvy linear tower. Right? Here, this we are talking about Vimana, which is a pyramidal structure. So that Vimana concept is from where? From the Dravida style. The ambulatory passage. What is ambulatory passage? That circular path which is kept around the sanctum and sanctorum. That's where the deity or the god is kept, right? The Panchayatan style, the main deity and the subsidiary deity. So the followers or the bhakt, they can come and they can see the god. They can take a circle around the sanctum and sanctorum, which is nothing but the Garbhagriha. Okay, so this is what we have discussed. So I hope you understood what I mean by the combination of Nagara and Dravida. Something like, let me quickly go for that. Guys, this is what we discussed as Dravida style. So can you see here the features that we have covered? There is a huge premise. You can see that there is a huge premise which is having outer boundary wall, and then there are gopuras, which is nothing but the gateways, and then these are some small sculptures of Dwarpal which is kept over there, and this is the Antaral, which is a narrow passage to get towards the deity, and this is the Garbhagriha, that is a sanctum and sanctorum. And then you can see there is a main deity and then subsidiary deity. That means there's a Panchayatan style of keeping 1+4 god. So these are the subsidiary shrines. And then this pyramidal structure is what you can see as Vimana. And then there are prayer hall, and then there is a water tank, which is a specific feature of Dravida style. So if you see this is that Vimana, which is pyramidal structure, which is not having any curve shape at any point in the structure. Okay, so this is about Dravida style. So what has been taken from Dravida style in Vessera style? It is the Vimana. So Vimana is from where? Dravida style. You can see here Dravida style, one of the typical features is Vimana, which is kept at the top, which is pyramidal structure. So that is taken from Dravida style, and that you can see in Vessera style. If you look into the North Indian style, it's like this. So you can see it's in an upraised platform. You can see that, and then there will be stairs to go to that platform, and then there are mandaps. So that is nothing but the prayer hall, and you will see some in-depth pillars which is going to support or give strength to the structure or architecture. And this curvy linear tower, can you see here? That is what? Your Shikhara. You can see that Shikhara. Okay, so instead of Vimana in Dravida, you will find Shikhara in Nagara. And then this is what that Amlak, which is nothing but the religious symbol. And then this is what? Can you see this ambulatory passage around the deity? So which has been taken from Nagara style? It is this ambulatory passage. So what you get in Vessera, you will get ambulatory passage, which is taken from Nagara. Here you can see that ambulatory passage around the sanctum and sanctorum, the Garbhagriha. So this is what the sanctum and sanctorum, which is nothing but Garbhagriha. And what is taken from Dravida? Vimana. So that is why I've told you it is a combination of Nagara and Dravida. So you just need to know what is that feature which is taken from Nagara, that is ambulatory passage concept, and then Dravida, which is Vimana. So they will ask you specifically in prelims, which has been no chance in getting mains question, but still you should be knowing this very clearly. Now what more we need to know in this is the example. You should be in a position to write the examples of this as well. So let's talk about a few examples, that is temples at Badami. Temples at Badami, which is a place in Karnataka. Guys, most of these temples, Vessera style, is in Karnataka. And most of these temples have a deity Shiva. But Badami, the deity is actually Vishnu. That means the main god is actually Vishnu. They can even ask you, in this temple, who is the main god, main deity? Like that also they can ask you. So mostly 95% of the case, Vessera style here in Karnataka region, it is Shiva. Okay. So next one example that I can discuss is Ladkhan. Ladkhan. Guys, the pronunciation, just ignore it. Anyway, it may be different the way the North Indians and South Indians pronounce each and every word, especially these kinds of words are different. These are not English words. If it is English words, okay. Otherwise, it's going to be totally different. Okay. So Ladkhan temple at Aihole. It's actually, when we read in English, we'll read like this. But in Karnataka, this place is actually called as Aihade. Okay, so, but in exam, they will be giving you this only. Even this is not something which they are not going to ask you also. Aihole or Aihade. Just remember that. So that's about the Vessera style. I hope this is very clear. There is nothing difficult in this. Now let's discuss about the Hoysala style of temple. Okay, this Hoysala is also in Karnataka. Now guys, the speciality is that the temple structure in Hoysala style look like a star. The top, like the top view, if you take, it will be something like this. I'll just show you. It's likely I need to remove certain areas from this, then I'll get it. But instead what I'll do is I'll just whatever I want, okay, I will draw with the green one, and then we can remove the red one. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just remove this. Okay guys, so this is how it will look like. Okay, I thought I will not be able to remove like this, so maybe the entire lines will go. That's why I've drawn it with red, so that when I click, entire red will go and the green will be left out. So that is why I've done like that. But it looks like this, right? So it's like now when you look from the top, it is the star structure that I am talking about. So this is the Hoysala style of temple. So the speciality is this star type of structure. What are the examples here? If you see, Hoysaleswar temple at Halibut. Okay, so it is again dedicated to Shiva. So the main deity is actually Shiva. I told you most of the temples Shiva. Badami, it is Vishnu. Otherwise it is Shiva. Okay, and then Channakeshwara temple at Somanathpura. Sometimes it will be referred as Somanathapuram. So Somanathapura. When we write like this, but normally, when they pronounce, like the South Indians, when they talk about the Somanathapuram, like that. So both are in Karnataka. So all are actually in Karnataka. And most of the temples are Shiva, deity. They can ask you who is the deity in this Hoysala temple. So you should be knowing that it is Shiva. Okay. Here also Shiva. Now these people can ask you like this, Chinnakeshwara temple. So who's the main deity in this temple? Let's suppose they are giving you something like this. Vishnu, Shiva, and some other person, Parvati, and then Chinnakeshwara god. So what you will do? You will go for Chinnakeshwara god. Who is that? Nobody know, right? It is actually Shiva who is the deity. You should be knowing that. That's the reason you can't take such kind of guess just by seeing Chinnakeshwara. And if they have given something like that, or Hoysaleshwar, right? So Hoysaleshwar god. If they give something like that, means it's a trap. They just understand and then just don't fall into that. So that is something which I want to discuss. So guys, with this we have completed the art and architecture of ancient India, and now we will be moving towards medieval. So what we did so far in ancient, what all things we have covered? If you see, we started off with Indus Valley civilization. So we have covered this, and then we discussed Mauryan period, right? But if you see in the history, if the order is like after Indus Valley civilization, it is Chalcolithic period, and then there is Vedic period, and within that early Vedic and later Vedic is there. But why we skip that Chalcolithic and early Vedic and later Vedic is because we are discussing art and architecture. So from that perspective, there is nothing much to discuss during that period. So we went to Mauryan period and we discussed a lot of things, and then we discussed the post-Mauryan period, and then we discussed the Gupta period, and I've told you this is where we discuss the North Indian temple architecture, Gupta period. Okay, and then we discussed about South Indian temple architecture. But guys, just remember one thing: Gupta period came to an end almost by 550 AD. But South Indian temple architecture is actually starting from 600 AD once Mahindra Varman became the king. Okay, so if a question is coming that whether South Indian or North Indian temple architecture is the oldest, there is no need to have any confusion. During Gupta period, it has been developed and flourished. So it is North Indian temple architecture which is oldest. South Indian temple architecture coming after Gupta period itself. Once Gupta period is over, that's when. Okay, so there is no need to have any such confusion. So South Indian temple architecture we discussed, and the other style, Vessera style and Hoysala style we discussed. Now what we are going to do is we will be discussing medieval. So when we discuss about medieval, I will be discussing the Delhi Sultanate and also Mughal. Okay, so Delhi Sultanate, that is during 1206 to 1526, and this is 1526 to 1707. And here what I do is I'll divide this into imperial and provincial. Okay, and here also I'll go for the same, like imperial and provincial. So we will be discussing all these, and then after that we will go to modern. So when we discuss about modern, first we will cover Indo-Gothic, that is before 1911. 1911, what is the speciality? Delhi Darbar, and the capital was shifted to Delhi. Okay, and then post 1911, Neo-Roman. So this is what we are supposed to cover in the coming sessions. So guys, let's start our discussion here itself, since we have some time left out. What I'll do is I'll quickly discuss the main difference between ancient and medieval architecture. So let's discuss about the ancient and medieval, or rather what I'll do is I'll name this Trabeate, this is ancient, and Arcuate, this is medieval. So we will also see the basis, what all things we will have to consider, that we will draw here. So all the architectural features of ancient period are clubbed under this one, Trabeate. Okay, so features of ancient architecture, that is what Trabeate. So here features of medieval architecture. So that is just for understanding. And then what about the entrance? If you see entrance, here in the ancient, mostly it is the lintel entrance. Lintel entrance means the flat roof. Like normally we have the door, which is flat roof. We have the room, which is again flat roof. The temple that we discussed, that is also initially square type flat roof, right? So it is just like flat roof. Normally, if I want to draw, I can show you. This is what normally, this is the entrance, like a normal door. But here it is arc. Okay, something like this. So that is the entrance. So this is the entrance and this is the entrance. So that's the first point, the main difference between Trabeate and Arcuate, ancient and medieval architecture. And then what about the top? How the top is like? You will see in the ancient time, we discussed already about Shikhara, right? So there will be Shikhara, Vimana. So you know what is Shikhara, right? There will be something like this, a curvilinear top. And then what is Vimana? There is something like this, a pyramidal structure. So here there will be a curve, and here this is a pyramidal structure. So what about this Arcuate, medieval? It will be dome, like this. Okay. Now, how about the towers? Towers, no towers, that is absent. And here you will be finding minar. That's from where the azan. Okay. So, and then material used. If you see the material used, it is actually stone, which is used here in ancient time. But when it comes to medieval, you will be finding a brick, lime, mortar, etc. So mortar means it's a mix of sand, cement, and some kind of small stones, which is started using for the first time during this time, medieval time onwards. So this is about the main difference between ancient and the medieval architecture, that is the Trabeate and the Arcuate type. So entrance, you know, one is flat, the other is curved. Top, you see Shikhara, which we discussed in Nagara style, and Vimana, which we discussed in Dravida style. But here you will be finding the dome, okay, no, medieval time. And then, okay, we discussed about tower, minar, which will be present. And material used is stone in ancient, but here brick, lime, mortar, etc., which is used. Guys, we will discuss this in detail in the next session. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you got some value for this session. See you in the next.